This incident was, of course, a major incident, and it was very overwhelming for our office. And for the past 2 weeks, we've been diligently working on the investigation and trying to review the actions of officers as well as the criminal investigation. First of all, I do want to set some ground rules. Today's briefing is intended to focus on the officer-involved shooting that took place on January 30th. I don't want to address the larger investigation that's taking place, and I don't want to answer questions that touch on the 17-year-old female that was involved. That's not the purpose of today's hearing or today's briefing. But I am willing to talk about the actions of the suspect, the male suspect that was deceased on January 31st. First of all, I want to just review with you some of my duties. As county attorney, when there's use of deadly force, I'm required to review that very carefully and determine whether or not the use of force was lawful. And the statute in particular that I'm looking at is 76-2-404. That's outlined in the letter that I issued today to Sheriff Orme, and that letter discusses some of those duties. In conducting that review, like I said, SVI was very helpful in conducting an independent investigation. We always like to have an independent agency review these so that there's no question about bias. And they've done an excellent job. I also, in my letter, you'll notice I have not listed names of officers in the letter. I've done that for a very specific reason, and those officers are referred to in the letter by badge number. Those officers don't take lightly the fact that on the 30th they had to take a human life. They take that very seriously. They don't take any great pleasure in the fact that they had to do that. They, for the most part, would like to maintain their anonymity if they can. I told them I would do everything I could to try to help them in that regard. So that's why the letter only refers to badge numbers. Anyway, so first of all, I just want to get into, and if we can go ahead and start the PowerPoint, are we ready? Okay, there we go. So I'm just going to walk down through some events that happened on January 30th in Juab County. I'm focusing really on the events of Juab County, not so much on the events that happened in Utah County. Go ahead and Perry, Perry is one of my deputies who is helping us with technical assistance today. This is just an overview of some of the events that took place to kind of give you reference. On that day, our officers were made aware of the events in Utah County and notified that a suspect vehicle, a white Toyota, was heading south on I-15. Our officers took up locations on I-15 in an effort to locate the vehicle and attempt to arrest and apprehend the suspects. Let's go ahead and this again is just an overview of where certain events took place. We're going to talk a little more about these events as we go forward here. Perry, if you just move to the next slide, this is a timeline of events, and I'm just going to talk if you'll just try to keep up as I move down through events. At approximately mile marker 231, there were several officers, a UHP officer as well as 2 Juab County deputies set up in the crossover there looking for the suspect vehicle. Shortly after they arrived at that location, they spotted the suspect vehicle and pulled out and gave chase. This is a photo from the dash cam. All the photos that you'll see here are from dash cams. So that that you're seeing there is in fact the suspect vehicle. So UHP trooper pulls out and gives chase. The deputies follow. As they're traveling southward on I-15, the trooper calls out on the radio that shots are being fired in his direction from the vehicle. So the pursuing units then back off, create some distance, and continue the pursuit. As the pursuit nears Nephi, we're at about mile marker 226. One of the sheriff's deputies spikes the vehicle. We believe that there are some tires that are damaged in that incident. The pursuit continues southward at mile marker 225, which is an exit right in the center of town. Another sheriff's deputy was pulled across the exit ramp there and blocking the suspects from coming into town. He also deployed some spikes, spiked the suspect vehicle, but unfortunately also spiked the trooper who had to pull off. And then the sheriff's deputies gave chase. The vehicle continued to move south of the 225 exit, and just south of the 225 exit, there are shots fired at a semi-truck. There are at least 3 or 4 shots fired. I believe 3 tires were flattened, and also right about in the same area, the suspect vehicle ran into another motorist on the freeway. There was front-end damage to the Toyota. The Toyota then continues south to the 222 exit, which is the south exit in Nephi. Pulled off on that exit, went to the bottom of the exit ramp, and at the bottom of the exit ramp, the occupants of the vehicle exited the vehicle and abandoned the vehicle at that point. The sheriff's deputies who were following, there are 2 of them in this truck. They stop about 40 yards from the bottom of the ramp and get out and start giving commands to the occupants to get down, drop the gun, stop. The occupants do not comply. They continue running. They fire shots at passing motorists. That also has 1 deputy. These deputies see the SUV get spiked. The SUV then, shortly after it's spiked, it drives through the median and goes on to the southbound lanes or the northbound lanes of traffic. So the SUV is now heading southbound against traffic in the northbound lanes. It travels for several seconds in the northbound lanes until it hits a car. I don't remember if that was a car or a van, but you can clearly see that in the dash cam video. The SUV then spins out onto the east shoulder of I-15. The other car that was involved in the collision continues north a little bit and comes to a stop, of course, because he's been involved in a collision. The male suspect gets out of the SUV right on the shoulder of I-15 and begins running very quickly in the direction of the vehicle that he has just collided with. As he reaches that vehicle, he starts to open the door, and at this time, there are 4 officers who are on the other side, on the southbound lanes of travel of I-15, who get out of out of their vehicles and are taking up positions with their rifles. One of the officers believes he has a shot at the suspect, believes he's trying to carjack yet another vehicle, and he takes the shot at that point. Also at this point, all the officers are yelling at the motorist to leave, to go. They're waving their arms. The motorist sees that. He recognizes the deputies as, in fact, law enforcement officers. He sees the guns and hears them telling him to leave. So he leaves, and as he leaves, the suspect is left there on the shoulder of the road. Somewhere around that point, the suspect points his gun at the officers and fires in the direction of officers. Officers return fire. 3 of the officers began moving down, and as you look at the pictures, I think you can, well, I'm not sure it really shows very well, but the southbound lanes are elevated above the northbound lanes quite a bit. And so they're moving downhill towards the suspect, these 3 officers, through the median. And as one of the officers comes up on the west shoulder of I-15, he sees the suspect appear, and he takes a shot. Apparently, two other officers also took a shot at the same instant, and the suspect disappears. Officers then cross I-15, and I don't know that you can tell, but from the pictures, there was a fair amount of traffic on I-15, so these officers were very careful in taking their shots. They had to make sure they had a clear shot on the suspect, and they also had to be careful of passing traffic. They crossed I-15, approached the suspect. He was down. He was obviously injured. They were able to put him in custody, although he did struggle with them. He was trying to, it appeared to officers that he was trying to access his waistband area. Later, we discovered an empty magazine at his waistband. The suspect was clutching a handgun in his hand. It had to be pried from his hands. He was not letting go of that gun. The slide to the gun was in a locked back position, and the magazine we later discovered was empty, indicating that he had run out of ammunition. So in looking at, those are basically the facts that we're looking at here. And in looking at that, in applying the law, it's quite clear to me that these officers were, number one, trying to effect an arrest of an individual who was fleeing from a scene of a forcible felony, a murder, and an attempted murder in Utah County. Under those circumstances, according to Utah law, officers are entitled to use deadly force. It's very clear to me that these officers, in fact, were clearly justified in using deadly force in this situation. It's quite clear that as this suspect moved south on I-15, he demonstrated a reckless abandon for the public. He didn't care who was hurt or who was injured as he was trying to escape. He was willing to fire his gun at officers. He was willing to fire his gun at passing motorists and members of the general public. It's clear that these officers really did exactly what they needed to do, what they should have done, and what they were trained to do. And as I mentioned before, these officers did not and do not take any great pleasure in the fact that they were involved in the taking of a human life. They take that very seriously. But it doesn't appear from the facts that this case was going to end any other way. I do want to just make an editorial comment on the behavior of the officers. As I've watched the dash cam video, it's hair-raising. These officers, if you can imagine, these are men that I've worked with for years. I know them, I know their families. And as I watched the video, these men did not hesitate even for an instant. They got out of their vehicles, they charged right into the face of danger, this man who was pointing a gun at them and shooting without even a hesitation. They did exactly what we would hope officers would do in this situation. They demonstrated extraordinary valor and courage. I take my hat off to them. As I watch these videos, all I can say is I'm awestruck at the courage that they showed. And I guess that's my editorial comment. Those are the comments that I have. I'm going to pass the time to Sheriff Orme for any statements, and I think that he may have some video that he wants to show, and then after that we'll let Sheriff Tracy make a statement. Thank you.
For being here today and for all the coverage of an important event in our county that you've covered. I would like to acknowledge several individuals for their support through this trying time for our Juab County Sheriff's Office. Most of all, I'd like to thank the citizens of Juab County and the state of Utah for their thoughts and prayers and reaching out and showing us their support and encouragement. That has not been taken lightly, and it means a great deal to me and my deputies. Also, for the response from Governor Gary Herbert, Senator Jason Chaffetz, several other legislators, and that have reached out and showed support and concern for our office and for our deputies. Also, for the individuals that were involved in this investigation and assistance, for the Department of Public Safety, for Commissioner Keith Squires, and for Colonel Danny Fuhr of the Highway Patrol, and Major Mike Rappage, and for all their support and resources that they sent to us and applied, for them assigning SBI to do the investigation in this, the State Bureau of Investigations, for them to come and do a thorough and independent audit and investigation into this situation. They did an outstanding job, and it was we're very day of this incident. Every officer that was involved in this, every highway patrolman, every Nephi City officer, every Juab County officer, to me, acted above and beyond the call of duty. You know, and as our county attorney, Jared Eldridge, pointed out, that it was extraordinary, the efforts that everybody portrayed on this day. We're grateful for this day that the investigation is into the shooting part of the 216, milepost 216 incident, that it is concluding, and that now we are able to clear the 4 deputies and they're able to return to work. In visiting with them, you know, I expressed my gratitude to them and expressed that I felt that they were true heroes. Every one of them stated that they were just doing their job, and they want to get back to work. They just want to serve the public and do their job, and which further you would expect from a true hero. And so it is good today that we're able to move forward and to kind of end our part of this investigation and return to work and continue to serve the citizens of Juab County and the citizens of the state of Utah. So I feel that the county attorney has done an exceptional job of helping with this investigation, and I know he's been thorough and has put forth a lot of concern and time in this matter, and so it is with gratitude that we accept this letter of clearance of the deputies and move forward today.